In progress.
Good evening, students. So in our previous session, we had discussed on the revisionary aspect of what is the place of supply and what is the time of supply, correct? So we have covered extensively the place of supply provisions and the time of supply, that is, when should you pay the GST. So welcome back to the revisionary classes. Today we'll be discussing on the topic of exemptions under GST and value of supply. Exemptions is definitely a very lengthy topic, so we will deal with it as such, but we will also deal with the value of supply. So when it comes to exemptions, there are so many exemptions. How do you remember this? So especially for the revisionary classes, we had a fortnightly program yesterday wherein Ms. Swati has explained very elaborately and very much in detail. How do you remember the exemptions? So if possible, go through such sessions and understand that there are various techniques to remember, and we should adopt the technique which is best suited for us and see that how we can actually memorize things in such techniques so that we don't forget it. So when it came to exemption, madam had explained that for remembrance of lengthier topics like this, repetition is one of the approach, that you keep reading it again and again, have at least 3 times reading of the chapter. So take the board of studies. Board of studies is the best material, and go through the presentations which is presented in the classes. So you will see that what is presented in the class is closely getting correlated with our study material. This presentation on the exemptions, I'm giving you a handwritten notes. So these are the handwritten notes which I have written and then I've added in the presentations. So it gives exemptions at one place on topic wise coverage. So if there is an exemption for healthcare, all healthcare related exemptions I will give you at one place. Then all exemptions related to educational services, I will mention it at one place. So these slides will definitely help you. So just go through the study material once, then go through the material which I'll be sharing with you, and then make your own notes. So there are 3 times you have already gone through the topics. So multiple times when we go through the topics, then we will remember it, right? So that is the one technique which is rightly been adopted in this topic. So each topic wise also you have to select the strategy for memorizing it. Okay, where a lot of people here. Good evening, Miss Shagufta Parveen, Mr. Krishna Goel. Good evening, Miss Gulika. So we will be going ahead with and discussing on this topic of exemptions now. Good evening, Miss Meghna. So are you clear with the previous topics? So generally my approach has been that before getting into a new topic, we should be well averse, or we should lighten our burden by asking if there are any queries in the specific pointers of the previous topic. You can't ask that, no, the whole topic has to be repeated. That is not possible. That's why these classes are recorded. You can always go to the recorded sessions to see if you have missed the session. But if there is any specific queries after a revisionary sessions, you have sufficient time. So during that time, have you revised it or have you gone through it? Because most of the times students have seen that, I've heard from students that just by going through the recordings and through the sessions, they have cleared the exams. So I'm just trying to say that what is past, I'm not trying to say anything else. What has been the experience of the students in the past, that is very important. You can just relax and go through the recordings, go through the sessions, and definitely your concepts will be digested. Once that is absorbed, then you'll have that confidence. Confidence and time management are the two things which you will understand. A bit problem in concept retention. Which concept, Krishna Goyal? So you have to tell specifically which concepts you're not understanding. You cannot tell that whole GST itself is a concept which you cannot understand. Then there is some other problem. But specific concepts in some topics, if you're not able to understand, I can guide you with that. So in LVRC, concepts are getting cleared, but I don't know how to approach in question. Sure. So you also have, Mr. Ram, that if your concepts are getting cleared, I would say at least 60% of your work is done, right? You know the concepts, that is good. Then the 40% work would be on preparing or how to approach a question. At time to time, you will have sessions by the Board of Studies. Please attend that because the questions will come from the Board of Studies. Board of Studies, the material itself is very much important. And practice. How do you practice? You have previous year's question papers, solved question papers of the previous years. There you will get to know what is the approach to be followed. But my experience or my um, approach would be, my suggestion would be that take only the questions, you work out yourself, and then see the answers. Because if you just see the answers, you will feel, okay, it's just easy. But when you work out before seeing the answer and then verify it with the answers given by the institute, then you will get to know that what is the difference, what is the corrections you have to do, what is the steps you have to follow, what is the approach you have to follow while answering any question. So if you do this, then it will be clear. Definitely that 40% will get eradicated. Then you are 60% through with the concepts, 40% with the approach to answer the question. Yes, you are 100% ready for the examination. Let's start then, since there are no questions specifically. So we'll get into exemptions. When a supply falls under charging section, such supply is chargeable to tax. So when it is chargeable, when it is going under the charging section is first the section 9, right? If something is excluded in section 9, that is out of GST. The chargeability of supply says that is section 9 says that all goods and services are chargeable except alcoholic liquor for human consumption and 5 petroleum products, wherein supply is not leviable to tax. They are called as supplies. They are supplies, but they are not leviable to tax, or we can also call them as non-taxable supply. That is on this chargeability section. Okay, so it is a supply because supply includes supply of goods or services, and petroleum products are goods itself. But 9 has given them a go away. So we'll start with whether any product is liable to tax or no. We will not directly go to exemptions. We have to go to the charging section. We'll go to section 9. Section 9 excludes these 5 products: alcoholic liquor for human consumption and 5 petroleum products. These are out of GST. They are non-taxable supply. Then check next will be that, okay, these goods are left out. Then we'll go to the next, like how you go to a flow chart, like how a launch of, have you seen the launch of a rocket? PSLV launch vehicles, when there is a scientist launches the rockets, have you seen how does the launch happen? Come on, this is a non-technical question. Anybody can answer. Yes, in news. Yes, yes, definitely news. Even I have seen it in the news. From that itself, I'm asking you. I'm not asking you to physically see how a rocket has been launched. So what happens in a launch stage wise, right? So first, what happens? The outer rocket is there. We feel that the rocket itself, when they leave it, when they launch it, it will go to the outer part of the orbit, but that doesn't happen. The rocket or the launch vehicle is only the vehicle through which the inside satellite is launched. So when it starts with deporting or demising the lower part. So then it becomes lighter, it flies forward. Then there is some other part which falls, then some other part which falls, and finally the satellite goes to its orbit, right? Definitely correct, Mr. Krishna. Various parts are detached from it through the process. Correct. So similarly, you have to imagine a similar launch of a satellite to determine what is liable to tax. So first we will go to 9. From 9, we will detach the items, which is alcoholic liquor and 5 petroleum products. Then what is remaining, we will then see whether there is another exclusion. That exclusion now is the exemptions. That is, what is exempted is getting out. That exemption will come from where? That will come from rate notification. That is exemption notification. And then from the exemption, something which is going out, then what is left out will be the final goods and services which is liable to tax. Okay. So first see the charging section, then see the exemption notification, then see the rate notification. So two, one, two, three, three layers to decide and determine what is taxable. Okay. That is how we will see that finally what is left after excluding these exemptions, the balance will be the items which are taxable. Now we'll go to the definition of exempt supply. Most of the terms what we read under the GST law will be defined under the definition provisions, and definition provisions are all considered or included under section 2. Under section 2, we start with what is the definition of India. We also have definition of who is a associated person. Everything is defined under section 2. So we'll go to section 2. In 2 subsection 47, exempt supply is defined. Exempt supply means supply of any goods or services which attracts nil rate of tax or which is wholly exempt from tax. And it also includes non-taxable supply, which means this non-taxable supply, what we are saying, right? This, which is a non-taxable supply, this is outside the scope of GST, but this is also included here in the definition of exempt supply. So three types of exempt supply can be there. Supply of goods which attracts nil rate of tax or which is wholly exempt. This wholly exempt will be again through a exemption notification, and it includes non-taxable supply. So non-taxable exempt supplies are consisting of three things. One, supply which attracts nil rate of tax. Second, supply which is wholly exempt. And third is a non-taxable supply. Now, exemption can be through various types. It could be in terms of the activities what somebody is doing. If somebody is doing one activity, then that activity is exempted. So the exemption notification can decide the exemption in terms of the activities, or it can decide saying that, okay, certain suppliers, whatever they supply will be exempted, or certain recipients, certain receivers who are receiving these services, for them, everything will be exempted, or it could be a combination of specified suppliers and specified recipients. Okay, so the exemption is not like per activity itself. Some exemptions is for the activity, some exemption is for the supplier, some exemption is for the recipient, like this educational services. It is for certain receipts, saying that if the school receives certain services, then it is exempted. So then it is based on specified recipient. Okay. Then if your charitable organization provides some services, then it is based on the category, that is the supplier. That is, who is the supplier? Your charitable organizations. So charitable organizations supplies. So it is based on specified supplier. And then some exemptions could be on who is the supplier and who is the recipient. If that criteria is meeting up, then that exemption will be available. Now, section 11 is the exemption which says that central government or the state government shall, based on the recommendation of the council, right, can give exemption on taxable goods or services of a specified description if it is satisfied that it is necessary in the public interest, can give exemption by notification, which is exempted generally. So the exemption can come through a exemption notification. Now, this exemption notification could be absolute, saying that whatever we are specifying is exempted, or it could be conditional. That is, this is exempted subject to certain conditions. So the exemption notification will be exempted, and then it will give the conditions saying, okay, this exemption is based on certain conditions. Now, this exemption can be from whole of the tax or part of the tax. Like uh, charitable organization, again, whatever supplies they do, it is 100% exempted. So that comes under the category of whole tax is exempted. Then certain exemption could be partly from part of the tax. Like we are seeing this food services, restaurant services, when they provide supplies, up to 5% is taxable, balance everything is exempted. So that is an example of part exemption. Part tax is exempted. Okay. Now the exemption can be through a notification, or the exemption can be coming through a special order. Exemption can also be through a special order where under exceptional circumstances where it is really required that on a fast mode, you cannot wait for the exemption, or the government considers that for whatever reasons under exceptional circumstances, a order has to be passed, then the exemption can come through a order also. The two ways how a exemption can be dictated or spelled by the department are the Central Board of Indirect Taxes, that is the board indirect CBIC, Central Board of Indirect Tax and Customs, can give this exemption. They can give it through a notification or by issuing a special order. This is very important. Once the exemption is issued, then if the government considers it necessary, then they find that for the purpose of clarifying the scope of applicability, they can give a explanation to this original exemption. Say a exemption is issued. Now they want to give some clarification on it. They can insert an explanation to that exemption notification in A or B, either when the exemption is given through a notification or it is given through an order, that within 1 year they can give insert a explanation which can clarify the exemption. Okay, did you understand this? Let me give an example, like exemption of uh, government services is exempted. If they say that government services is exempted, now they want to insert that only central government and state government is exempted, but not other governments. Now, if they want to give that explanation, they can insert a explanation to this entry of exemption. Now, once they have to give this, they will insert an explanation saying that for the purpose of the this entry of exemption, government means central government and state government. Now, if they make an amendment and insert this explanation, then it will be retrospective. Means if that original exemption notification was given in 1st July 2017. Now they want to explain this through an explanation, that is by inserting an explanation. If they insert it before 1st of July 2018, that is exactly 1 year from the date of original notification, say they give it in January 2018, they insert an explanation. The effect of that will not be that it is effective from 1st January. It will be effective from the date of original notification, that it will be effective from July 2017. Okay, so exemptions will be retrospective from the day when the original notification was issued, if this explanation is inserted within 1 year from the date of original notification. Clear here? So these are all basic concepts before we get into the actual exemptions, but have you got this point clear? Very good. Others, I'm seeing response from few people. I hope others are also clear. Okay, so explanation added will have a retrospective effect if it is issued within 1 year. If it is issued after 1 year, then it cannot be retrospective, it will be prospective, which means the effective date will be the date when that notification is issued. सर नोटिफिकेशन को एक बार और समझा दीजिए. ए नोटिफिकेशन, यस, मतलब जो भी एग्जेम्पशन है, एग्जेम्पशन दो रास्ते से दिया जा सकता है. एक है नोटिफिकेशन के थ्रू, एक है ऑर्डर के थ्रू. तो अगर नोटिफिकेशन के थ्रू दिया जाता है तो वो एग्जेम्प्ट जनरल हो सकता है, और वो विदाउट ऑप्शंस या विथ कंडीशंस हो सकता है. फर्स्ट या जो नोटिफिकेशन इशू करेंगे उसमें आप बोल देंगे कि बस ये पूरा एग्जेम्प्टेड है, या फिर ये बोल सकते हैं कि कुछ कंडीशंस देके एग्जेम्पशन है. लेकिन ऑर्डर में ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है. ऑर्डर में कंडीशंस नहीं डाल सकते हैं. नोटिफिकेशंस में एग्जेम्पशंस के कंडीशंस डाल सकते हैं, और यहाँ पे एग्जेम्पशन या तो पूरे टैक्स का हो सकता है या पार्ट ऑफ द टैक्स का हो सकता है. दैट इज द पार्ट ए. ठीक है। नेक्स्ट एग्जेम्पशन एज वी हैड सेड एब्सोल्यूट और अनकंडीशनल, तो फिर उसे मैंडेटरी फॉलो करना चाहिए क्योंकि उसमें कंडीशन नहीं है। लेकिन अगर कंडीशन है तो आप ऑप्शनल कर सकते हो, क्योंकि आप बोल सकते हो कि जो कंडीशन है मैं फुलफिल नहीं कर सकता हूं, तो फिर दैट एग्जेम्पशंस विल नॉट बी कंपल्सरी, इट विल नॉट बी मैंडेटरी, दैट विल बिकम ऑप्शनल। Now we'll start with the first exemption notification, which is charitable and religious activities. What does this say? So for exempt supply, we cannot claim ITC, correct? But if we it is retrospective effect से पिछला taxable supply exempt हो गया, तो ITC का क्या करेंगे? अगर पिछला taxable है और हमको अभी बता दिया गया है कि it is exempted, तो पिछला जो taxes हमने यूटिलाइज कर लिया है उसे रिवर्स करना पड़ेगा। सो देयर इज अ प्रोविजन फॉर रिवर्सल ऑफ क्रेडिट, जो आपने क्रेडिट ले लिया है और रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव गवर्नमेंट ने क्लैरिफाई कर दिया है कि उसे एग्जेम्प्टेड है, तो फिर उसका क्रेडिट भी आपको रेट्रोस्पेक्टिवली रिवर्स करना पड़ेगा। एनी इंटरेस्ट या पेनाल्टी, पेनाल्टी तो नहीं लगेगा, इंटरेस्ट कैन कम, बट यू कैन ऑलवेज से दैट दिस इज अ रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव थिंग, that government itself has given this thing, so I will not pay interest. That stand you can take, but it is litigated. Okay. Now, what is charitable activities? हमने section 12A A B of income tax act में ये पढ़ लिया है, right? Yeah, correct. What's our fault? We have utilized the credit, but that much less taxes we have paid. So that's where interest may come in. Of course, we have not done it with a malified intent, but we have utilized the tax and we are also taking the benefit of not paying of tax, correct? So that's why that may be a tricky situation. So it's better that if such situation happens, Navneet, so whatever taxes you have paid, and you have utilized the credit, so that should not be a problem. Don't go back and reverse the credit, and don't go back and say that whatever is my supplies that will be exempted, so you give me the refund. So that situation doesn't come. We are only talking about a theoretical situation. If something like this happens, what we have to do? But that situation will not come, because when they are giving some clarification, they will increase the exemption scope, and they will say, okay, this is also exempted, or they will give some additional clarification itself, and it will not have any impact. New amendments, Meghna madam, statutory updates में आप देखेंगे तो then you will get to know if there is any new amendments. I think very few new amendments are there in this topic. Charitable, yeah, good questions. Charitable or religious services means any entity which is registered under 12AA or 12AB of the Income Tax Act, and they are doing charitable activities. So first condition is they have to be registered under 12AA or AB of the Income Tax Act. If they are not registered as such under that Income Tax Act, then it will not be falling under the exemption, even if they do this charitable activities. So entity is just started, right? Lot of NGOs we see that they have started on a small scale. They are doing charitable activities, but they don't get registered under 12AA or AB. Then they will not get exemption. So anybody who's paying any money to them, they are supposed to charge the tax on it. Of course, subject to the limit that they cross, but such NGOs will not cross the limit, so that's fine. But otherwise, do remember that entities which is registered under 12AA and AB, and they are doing this charitable activities. So the two conditions, that is, they have to be a entity registered under 12AA or AB, plus should be doing this charitable activities. Only then they will get this exemption. So charity institution must be a supplier or recipient. Charity institution must be a supplier. That is, the entity who is supplying should be a entity who is registered under 12AA and doing this charitable activities. Okay. What all charitable activities they have to do to claim this exemption? They should be doing activities of public health by way of care or counseling. They should be doing some public health activities by way of care or counseling of terminally ill, severely or physically or mentally disabled persons, or persons who are infected with HIV, AIDS, drugs, or alcoholic addicts. Okay. So such care activities is exempted. Then public awareness. They should be spreading public awareness of what? of preventive health, family planning, and prevention of HIV infection. They should be doing care or counseling, or they should be doing public awareness of these activities. It's not like a hospital thing. They should be doing activity non-hospital based also, because hospital only does treatment and things. But this public health will be that after hospitalization is over, that you need a place where you can recover, right? You have places like rehabilitation centers. They are talking about such rehabilitation centers where it's a rehabilitation center registered on a 12 AAR AB, because that's the first primary condition, and undertaking any kind of rehabilitations. Then such activity will be exempted. That is public health by way of care or counseling of terminally ill, severely physically or mentally disabled persons. So even physically disabled persons also, if there is any place where they can rehabilitate, that also will be exempted. Or public awareness of preventive health, family planning, and prevention of HIV infection. That is a public health part. Then advancement of any religion, spirituality, or yoga. They are doing the advancement of these specific things, not only religious activities. If they are doing anything in relation to yoga, then also it will be exempted. Then advancement is over for spirituality, yoga, and religion. Then any advancement of educational program, skill development relating to advancement of orphaned homeless children, or any physically or mentally abused person, traumatized person, or prisoners, or persons who are above the age of 65 years residing in rural areas. Two conditions: they should be more than 65 years. In some places it is 60 years, some places it's 65 years. Here, for the definition of charitable activities, they should be doing advancement of educational programs not for schooling children, for people who are above 65 years and they are residing in rural areas, or any skill development activities for them, or preservation of environment, watersheds, forests, and wildlife. Blood donation camps, I don't think blood donation camps will be forming part of this. सर अगर चैरिटेबल एंटिटी कोरोना के टाइम पे हेल्थ केयर करने में वो एग्जेम्प्ट होगा, हाँ वो हो सकता है, बिकॉज आप क्या कर रहे हो, टर्मिनली इल पीपल को आप बेनिफिट दे रहे हो, तो उसे एग्जेम्पशन माना सकता है। लेकिन ये कौन करेगा? ये वही करेंगे जो 12 AA में रजिस्टर्ड है। अगर वो 12 AA में रजिस्टर्ड है और ये एक्टिविटी करते हैं, तब एग्जेम्पशन का बेनिफिट उनको मिलेगा। either charitable activities relating to this or running old age home. They should be running a old age home. अगर एक चैरिटेबल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ओल्ड एज होम रन करता है, किसके लिए? फॉर रेसिडेंट्स मोर देन 60 years। यहाँ पे 60 years है, लेकिन ईयर इट वाज 65 years। सो फॉर ओल्ड एज होम द लिमिट इज 60 years, बट फॉर any kind of skill development and educational program, there the limit is 65 years. Here it can be any person, anywhere, rural or urban. The consideration, that is the charges what they're collecting, should be up to 25,000 rupees per month per person. For what? For the purpose of boarding, lodging, and maintenance. And if old age home is run by central government, so old age home can be run by charitable organizations or it can be run by the government also. Okay. Dono, if they are running something and they're collecting charges, then the charges will be exempted. Then renting of presence of a religious place. Wherever there is a place, उसको आप rent दे रहे हो, for if the room rent is up to 999 rupees, the limit has been set. Room rent of below 1,000 rupees, any Kalyana Mandapam up to 10,000 rupees, below 10,000 rupees per day. Shops, if you're collecting rent from them, where the value of the rent is less than 10,000 rupees, then it will be exempted. Anything 1 rupee also more you collect, then fully will become taxable. Okay. Apart from this, non-12 AA entities will get exemption. That is Pandit services, right? If there is any Pandit services, any kind of spiritual guru or a spiritual saint who is doing some spiritual activities, okay, then that services will be exempted. Okay. Then any training or coaching in recreational activities. This charitable organization is doing some training activities in recreational activities relating to some sports. Then also it's exempted. But training and coaching in recreational activities relating to arts or culture. This is only sports. For 12AA entity, only sports is exempted. But for all other entities, which is non-12AA, they get exemption in relation to recreational activities for arts, culture will be exempted. Okay. So training can be in relation to sports for a 12AA entity, but for other entities, they can do any arts and cultural training, it will be exempted. Then service of rehabilitation professionals. When a rehabilitation professional provides services, his services also will be exempted. Then religious program services by Kumau Mandal Vikas Nigam Limited and Hajj Committee, right? For pilgrimages when they send, their services also will be exempted. Okay, so that is on charitable organizations. This I've given a explanation of that. Next is agriculture services. Very important. That agriculture services means those services which is cultivation of land either by himself or through his labor. Whatever cultivation of agriculture thing he does, then that will be exempted. So agriculture produce are exempted. And that's the reason agriculture need not take any registration when he is selling something of a produce from his land. But if he engages in any other activities, what activities he can engage? He can engage in giving his land to some other person. Then who will he become? If he is giving away his land, then the vehicle will change. That is, if he's agriculturist, okay, to the extent of produce out of his cultivation only is exempted. If he does renting, if he does marketing, advertisement on his produce, then that will be taxable. So only agricultural produce will be exempted. Anything else, what he does will be taxable. Then renting of vacant land. He's having a agriculture land. He's giving it to another farmer. He cannot cultivate. He can giving to another farmer. As long as farming is done, either he does or he gives it as a service to somebody else. They are doing the activity of farming there. Okay. So renting of vacant, whatever rent he gets, that will be exempted. Then renting of agro machineries. So it can be agriculture related land or agriculture related machinery. Both are exempted. Agriculture operations would be cultivation, harvesting, threshing, plant protecting, testing. All of this is exempted. Or supply of farm labor, right? You need laborers in a farm to run it. So supply of farm labor also is exempted. Then the process carried out at the agriculture farm, that is any cutting, harvesting, sorting, grading, all of this is also exempted, but does not alter the essential characteristics. That is, whatever packaging activities we do, right? Like rice. Rice, how does it come? Through a paddy, right? The paddy is there. So paddy is exempted, but when you go it does some activities from paddy to rice. You have to go to rice mills. So that activity is not an agriculturist activity that will become taxable. But cultivation of paddy, plucking the paddy leaves, is all of this is exempted. Then warehousing, fumigation was first exempted. Now it is taxable. That's why I specifically striked it off. Fumigation will be taxable. Warehousing of minor forest produce also exempted. Warehousing of agriculture produce and rice is also exempted. And warehousing of cereals, pulses, fruits is also exempted. Then once these agriculture produce are exempted, where do they sell? They will sell it at the APMC yard or a yard where this produce can be sold. So they will go to that government yard and sell their produce. At the APMC yard, that sale is exempted because it is agriculture produce itself. Now, whom will they sell? They don't know who will buy it. So you have some commission agents. They will say, I will find a buyer for you. You have to give me 5% commission. So such commission agents commission is also exempted. Okay. It is not only the sale of agriculture produce, but the sale of the produce to anybody in the vicinity. All of that will also be exempted. So commission agents thing also will be exempted. Then loading, unloading, and packaging or storing of agriculture produce and rice. That is any warehousing charges. Then logistics charges will also be exempted. And then transportation of agriculture produce by road through a GTA rail or vessel is also exempted. Goods transport agency services, railway services, wherein you see that cultivation is happening in some remote place. From there, it comes, right? Generally, when you go in a train, you'll see goods train. In that, those closed cabins, you will see there are agriculture produce in it. मोटा मोटा पूरा भर के वहां पे रहता है. दैट ट्रांसपोर्टेशन अगर उसके ऊपर जीएसटी लगेगा तो फिर कॉस्ट इनका इंक्रीज हो जाएगा. So that's why that transportation is outside GST. It is not liable to GST there. Then agriculture extension services. For the farmers, you have to give some training, some melas, some Kisan clubs you have to hold, and they will pay some consideration. So such consideration also is exempted. The training, melas, and Kisan clubs are also exempted. Then artificial insemination, other than horses and all other livestock. So artificial insemination means cultivation of the animals or reproduction of animals will be exempted. But if that insemination is for horses, then it is taxable. Okay? Because everywhere you see that services relating to cultivation of plants and rearing dry forms of animals. That is, you rear cows, you rear sheep, goats, all of that is exempted except horses. So, all domestic animals except horses will be exempted. So, agriculture does not only mean plants, trees, and flowers, it also means any kind of this activities, services of pisciculture, sericulture, and floriculture. That is, breeding of fish, rearing of silk forms, cultivation of ornamental flowers. All of this is exempted. That when you have these things, you can sell it to somebody else. Okay. So this is also exempted. Agriculture extension services, artificial insemination. And what is taxable? The process which alter the essential character. That is, from pineapple, you are making a pineapple juice. Is that an agriculture activity? No, because the essential characteristics of that pineapple is lost, so it will be taxable. And process which makes the agriculture produce marketable to retail market. Same pineapple, if I'm selling it, it is exempted. But that pineapple, I will cut it and put it in tins for larger storage purposes, and it's for retail sale. Then it will be taxable. Same pineapple, it is there in it, but there is a process which makes the product not fresh from the farm, but it is like doing some activity that you sell it, then it will be taxable. Okay. Any question on charitable activity and agriculture activity still here? Okay. So this is again written description of the same thing. What is agriculture produce? What is non-agriculture produce? Fruits is agriculture produce. Dried fruit, or you have some processed foods now. That will be taxable. Pineapple, again is exempted, but tinned pineapple जो tins में डालते हैं, that will become taxable. Tea leaves as such is exempted, but tea powder, because from the tea leaves they send it to a factory. If you go to any of these hilly regions and see how the tea is made, they will take the tea leaves and put it in the machine. Once it gets dried up, okay, and that round balls are being formed. That is how the manufacturing of tea happens. So tea is an agriculture produce. Tea leaves is not a tea powder is a non-agriculture produce. So whatever is the agriculture produce is exempted. Non-agriculture produce is taxable. Similarly, coffee beans. Similarly, sugar cane. Sugar cane गन्ना taxable. गन्ने से जो शक्कर या जैगरी बनता है, that is taxable. Whole pulses such as whole grain or rajma is taxable. लेकिन pulses को cut कर देते हैं, then it become taxable. Paddy is exempted. Rice is not exempted. It is taxable. Green tea consumption, processing of sugar cane into jaggery, all of this are examples of that we have seen in the previous slide that till it is agriculture produce, exemption मिलेगा, बाद में taxable हो जाएगा. Clear? Let's get into educational services. Shall we go to the educational services now? Okay. So educational services, we have seen that till now, the services, like one person also asked the right question, that services provided to a charitable organization is exempted or taxable. Now we have understood charitable organization and agriculture services. Now you tell me, if I am providing some services as a consultant to a charitable organization, should I charge GST or no? Yes, I should charge. Ram is saying. Gulika Berwal also is saying that it is taxable. Classic. Meghna Chauhan also is saying it is taxable. Yes, all of you are giving a right answer. Ms. Khushi is also said it is taxable. That yes, yes, Ms. Parveen, you're also right. That when we provide some services to charitable organizations, to agriculturists, that will be taxable because the exemption is when they provide services, it is exempted. We are clear. So what happens? What happens in case of educational services? In educational services, it is different that services provided to an educational institution because it says that services received by a educational institution. So when you provide some services to an educational institution, who these six category of people, this is the only differentiation between other exemptions. That is, the other exemptions are when they provide the services. But in this case, when these people provide services to an educational institution, it is taxable. It is exempted, right? What are these services? Transportation of students, faculty, and staff, transportation services, catering services, security, cleaning, and housekeeping services. These are for specifically schools, preschools, and schools. Then the other exemption is services related to admission, also is school, preschools, and colleges also. Okay, so for preschool and school, 1, 2, 3, and 4 services are exempted. For others, that is vocational, higher educational colleges, they will get exemption of admission services also. That is, they will take admission of students, right? For that, if somebody is charging, some consultant is there or some company is there who will help in this admission process, that will also be exempted. And supply of online educational journals and print and periodicals, means if they're buying any educational journals or periodicals, that will also be exempted. Okay, so these are the exemptions, which is when these service people provide services to the educational institution. And the educational institution, the school, what they charge the fees, colleges, what they charge the fees, that is also exempted because they are providing provided educational services provided by the institution to its students, faculty, and staff, and conduct of entrance examinations for which they're collecting entrance fees. That is also exempted. So, have you seen any school which collects GST? They will not, because they are providing the educational services, and they are providing via educational institutions for its students, faculty, and staff. This is also exempted. Now, conduct of degree courses, a lot of clarification saying that a lot of things we see that tuitions also are being conducted. So is tuitions exempted? No, because they're not providing any degree which is recognized by law. The definition of educational institution is clear that educational institution means an institution providing services by way of preschool education up to higher secondary school, education as a part of curriculum for obtaining a qualification recognized by law. When they say recognized by law, it would mean recognized by the Indian law. And education is a part of an approved vocational educational course, right? Like skill development courses, what they do, that is coming part of approved vocational education course. Such activities will be covered under the educational institution. So from that perspective, if there is a educational services provided for which conduct of degree courses by colleges are exempted, training given by private coachings, right? A lot of people go to private coachings because they don't want to go to the school coaching. They are not sufficient. They will go to the tuitions, right? So such training provided by private coaching institutions is not exempted. They will collect GST, so that is taxable. Then education, if it is a part of a prescribed curriculum for obtaining a qualification recognized by law of a foreign country. Why? Because education of a degree course for recognized by law of the Indian country is exempted. But if you're getting any qualification from a foreign country, that will become taxable, right? So when you do ACCA courses, which is a course given by the UK, it is not an Indian law. You get the recognition under the UK law, so that will become taxable. But sir, if you are taking educational course outside India, are that taxable? Yes. If you do it from India, it will become taxable. But if you go there, then the Indian GST cannot say you anything. So that country's law will decide whether it is taxable or no. Clear, Meghna? So USCMA course is taxable or exempt. What is this USCMA? USCMA, yeah. USCMA course when you're doing it from India. Correct? Because if you go to US and do it, then it's a different thing. US law will decide. But if you're doing it from India, it is not a degree recognized by law under the Indian laws, so it will be taxable. CA course is taxable or no? You tell me. You're doing the CA course. While you paid the fees, did they collect any GST? No. Right? Everybody is supporting the view that no, it is not taxable. So CA course is not taxable because it is also a degree. You get a degree which is recognized by law. So it is also exempted. You're getting a degree. Now, degree doesn't mean that only BCom degree. Any degree. CA is also professional degree that is recognized by the law. So that is also exempted. Conduct of entrance examination by any of these bodies, like your 10th, you have to do some kind of engineering thing, right? So engineering, when you have to do, uh, the entrance examination is conducted by a body. Central government or state government has some specified body. So they will conduct the entrance examination, but they are not college, no? So will they be treated as exempted? They have said that yes, for such calculations, for such entrance examination conducted also, exemption will be available. GST is also exempt on input service to admission to or conduct of examinations. That is, the entrance examination is exempted. So it can be online examination, result publication, printing, all of this, which is incidental to this activities, that will also be exempted. So entrance examination, then any printing charges, the paper-led booklet printing, OCR printing, all of that, admit card, question papers, all of that is also exempted. Then GST is applicable to other services provided by such boards, namely of providing accreditation to an institution. We have seen that a lot of colleges go for accreditation, saying that they should get the ranking or get certification, saying they are the A plus certification. So that also is exempted. So canteen services provided to its students are exempted, because we saw under the first list that canteen services are exempted if they are catering services are exempted if they're providing to students. If they are providing to outsiders, then it will be taxable. Boarding schools also are exempted. IIM long-term courses are exempted. Short-term will be taxable, because in short-term, you're not getting a degree recognized by law. Just giving a participation certificate is not will not qualify for the exemption. You should be giving a degree which is recognized by law. Then entrance fees, eligibility, all of this is exempted. Transfer certificate for TC, you have to pay some charges. That is also exempted. Does ICAI pay GST to the government for the service it is providing to students as well as members? For the students, it is not taxable, Meghna, because it is a educational institution. But when it provides services to its members, like they conduct seminars, they have to conduct some CPE conferences. That is not a educational services, because there we are not students, we are members. So when a member goes, even though a member goes as a student, but it is not in the course of you're getting some degree recognized by law, right? We are only getting a participation certificate, certification course. They will give a certificate. So when it gives some certification course, some training to the members, that will become taxable. But anything given to students, it is exempted. New exemptions are added in this cases. Services of affiliation provided by a central or state government, that is exempted. Affiliation to government schools are also exempted. But however, the affiliation to private schools, they've said that is taxable. So they've clarified that any affiliation to private schools will be taxable, but affiliation to government schools will be exempted. Next, healthcare services. Now, healthcare means any hospitalization services. So, any services provided by healthcare for clinical establishment or authorized medical practitioner or paramedics, right? Healthcare service, firstly, definition of healthcare service we need to understand. Let's zoom this in. Healthcare services means any service by way of diagnostic, diagnosis, or care of illness, injury, deformity, abnormality, or pregnancy. This is the definition of healthcare, that you're doing any diagnostic treatment or care in any recognized system of medicine. That is any kind of allopathy, yoga, naturopathy, Ayurveda, homeopathy, Siddha, or Unani, then it is exempted. But if you do non-Indian based health services like Reiki, acupressure, Chinese medicine, They are not recognized because they say that in any recognized system of medicine under the Indian Medical Association or the Indian Medical Council, this should be recognized. Yoga is recognized there. Naturopathy is recognized. Ayurveda is recognized. Homeopathy, these are recognized, but Reiki, acupressure, Chinese medicines are not recognized. So when you have a Chinese doctor, you have a Reiki doctor, they will be taxable. All other doctor services will be exempted. Then transportation of patient to and from clinical establishment, which is when will you transport a patient to and from a clinical establishment? Through an ambulance. So ambulance service is also exempted, but it does not include hair transplantation and cosmetic or plastic surgery. So plastic surgery, if you're doing it for beautification purposes, it will be taxable. But if you're doing to restore or rebuild anatomy or function of the body, like any defects, abnormality happens, and then the doctor suggests that because that to replace it, you have to do plastic surgery, then it is exempted. But for beautification purposes, like how Bollywood stars, they do it, right? For makeup purposes, for uplifting their body features, the features of the face. Such plastic surgery will be taxable. But if it is for operation purposes, for bringing the abnormality to normality, then it will be exempted. Any questions here? Second one, Lokesh, which one? The illness, injury, and deformity. Suppose you're not well, you go to a doctor for your illness. That is the illness. You met with the accident, then you go to a doctor. That is injury. Deformity. You are deferring, you have some weakness, you are abnormal. Then you go to a doctor. That is whatever reason you go to a doctor, all of that is covered here. So if a charity trust is involved in diagnosis treatment, it is exempt? Yes, it is exempted because it's doing diagnosis services. Clinical establishment. Yeah, what is a clinical establishment? We'll see here. Clinical establishment is defined as a hospital, nursing home, labs, and diagnostic or investigation centers. That is a hospital, nursing homes, labs, and diagnostic centers. They are all called as clinical establishment. So, does aggregate turnover apply to healthcare services as well? What is your question, Gulika? Aggregate turnover means total turnover, which will be taxable turnover and exempted turnover. So that, yes, healthcare services are providing exempted turnover. Their turnover is part of, will become, or that turnover will be included in the definition of aggregate turnover. Okay. So clinical establishment providing services, authorized medical practitioner, a doctor providing his doctor services either from his home or from a clinic. Both of that will be exempted. Then paramedics, that is trained healthcare professionals providing services. Doctor providing services, fine. Nursing staff, staff providing services also exempted. Physiotherapist and technicians, X-ray technicians, lab technicians, all of their services provided to the healthcare industry, that is also exempted. Okay. So sometimes they will have outside consultants who will be coming as physiotherapists. So they will charge to the patients directly, or they will charge to the hospital, and hospital charges, that is also exempted. Then ambulance is exempted. If now this exemption was there for everybody, then they said, no, no, if you are rich enough and you're taking a bigger room, you're there in a hospital and you're taking a bigger room. How do you define a bigger room? If the room rent is more than 5,000 rupees per day, then it will be taxable. Then they said, no, no, my ICU, everybody will come, even a normal patient will come and we will charge 6,000 rupees. So generally they thought that ICU, NICU are costly itself. So they excluded from the room rent calculation ICU charges, ICU, CCU, ICCU, NICU rooms. There, if you collect 15,000 also, it is fully exempted. But for room rent, for the rooms, what they're providing to the patients, there, if the value is up to 5,000 rupees, then it is exempted. Above 5,000, then it will become taxable. This is for human health. For any animals, veterinary clinic, that is also exempted. Then operators of biomedical waste. So this was taxable. Now it is striked off. So your waste treatment, for the waste treatment, when you engage a treatment facilities services, that will become taxable. Cord blood bank services also will be taxable. Private houses, private hospitals, yes, not only government hospital, private hospitals, when you go, they will raise a bill. They will not charge GST on it because all private hospitals also are clinical establishments. Their services are also exempted right now. Room rent to inpatients is exempt. Senior doctors providing services to the hospital also is exempted. Hospital collecting and charging to the patients, that is also exempt. Food to inpatients is exempt. Food to outsiders will be taxable. Outside catering services, hotels, that is all taxable. Any services other than healthcare, like in a hospital, you will see some advertisement of some medicine companies are there. That is taxable because that is not a healthcare, right? Abnormality or infertility due to ART procedures such as IVC, that is also exempted. So turnover will apply means if he crosses the limit, he may be made liable to register, but may or may not pay GST since exempt. No, there is a exemption on that, that if any hospital or anybody who's providing only exempted services, then they need not take the registration at all, even if they cross the aggregate turnover limit. So there is a notification to that extent saying that registration is exempted to such persons who will only keep providing the exempted services. But if they provide one taxable services also, like this hospital, everything is exempted. Now they are providing some advertisement services to the pharma company. So that is taxable. So there, the whole turnover we have to see, and we have to pay tax on that service of advertisement. Okay. Clear, Miss Kushi? Good question. What if taxable services are received? Will that be under RCM? So if they receive some taxable services, the supplier himself will charge. So they don't have to pay under RCM because supplier will not get the exemption. The hospital gets the exemption. I am supplying some consultancy services, marketing services to a hospital. Can the hospital say, no, I am exempted, so you can't charge me GST? They cannot because exemption is for their services to the patients, not for my services to them. So I will charge the GST that will have they have to bear that cost because they cannot claim the credit. If a hospital is providing exempt services, how can it claim the credit? ITC will have to be reversed. They cannot claim any input tax credit. Clear, Kushi? So that is on the healthcare services. The same what we have discussed. Next, getting into government services. Government services, very clear that any services provided by one government to another government is exempted, and any pure labor services, right? Services when we provide will be exempted, or if it is composite and the value of the goods is less than 25%, it is exempted. And Department of Post was exempted, now it becomes taxable. Then port airport services is taxable under forward charge. Transportation service also is taxable under forward charge. So very less services will be exempted. That is this where the services is provided to a business entity and that business entity's turnover is below the limit, then it is exempted. But otherwise, most of the government services will be exempted itself. Sir, ambulance services are exempted? Yes, ambulance services are exempted. Transportation of patients from home to hospital, hospital to home, right? That is exempted. If any organization or company is providing services to the government, it is taxable? Yes. Because these are all services provided by government. If you are providing some services to the government, it will be taxable. But if you are providing services, if you're providing goods, it is taxable. But if you're providing services, it is not taxable. Because first only we have said that first point here, if you're providing pure services or composite services where goods is up to 25% only, then it is exempted. Clear? So services, providing services to the government is exempted. Any questions on government services? Okay, next we'll go to the next important service, which is Residential Welfare Association. तो जनरली क्या होता है रेसिडेंशियल वेलफेयर एसोसिएशन में? Service of aircraft or vessel, we'll go to that. When services of transportation is there, that we will discuss. Once we discuss this, we'll go to service of aircraft or vessel. Our Residential Welfare Association. Now, Residential Welfare Association says that if you're collecting any charges from your members, that up to 7,500 rupees, then it is not taxable. Above 7,500, then it is taxable. Up to 7,500 rupees आप collect करते हो, then it is exempted. Above 7,500 आप collect करते हो, then it is taxable. Okay. Now, I am a residential welfare association. I am collecting 7,500 से ज़्यादा. I am collecting 8,000 rupees from all my members. Is it taxable? It You cannot say outrightly if it is taxable or no, because we know for registration purposes, the limit is 20 lakhs. Up to 20 lakhs, you do not have to register. So if your annual collection itself, so 8,000 rupees you're collecting from each member for, say, 10 houses, your association has only 10 houses. So 8,000 into 10, 80,000. 12 months का कितना हो गया? 8 lakh and 1 lakh 60, 9 lakh 60,000 rupees. So your collection itself is below the limit. So why should you collect GST? So first you have to see the annual turnover. If your annual turnover is less than 20 lakhs, then whether you collect more than 7,500 or you collect less than 7,500, both are exempted. Because your limit itself is below 20 lakhs. Clear? Your limit itself is below 20 lakhs. So you will not collect any GST because your collections is below 20 lakhs. But if your collection is more than 20 lakhs, okay, then the picture of 7,500 or no will come in, that you're having crossed the limit. Then if your collection is more than 7,500, तो फिर आपको exemption नहीं मिलेगा. For less than 7,500 persons, you can exemption will be available. For such members, you will not collect the GST. For more than 7,500 members, you will collect the GST from their monthly collection. And this limit of 7,500 is to be checked per flat per month and not per member. Per flat per month, you have to see this. So annual turnover will depend on states. Yes. Generally, for services, it is 20%. For TNMM states, yes, MMNT states, there the limit you have to see 10 lakhs. Correct. So this is a general thing. For those special category states, you will see 10 lakhs only, Ms. Kushi. Clear? Then we were talking about aircraft vessel services that covers under transportation services. I think Lokesh was asking on this that air passenger. Now you have transportation by two types, passenger and goods. Passenger transportation and goods transportation. So for passenger transportation, if it is air transportation, if you're traveling to aeroplane, it is taxable, except these Batmans. You remember this acronym called Batmans? That B stands for Bagdogra, A stands for Arunachal Pradesh, T stands for Tripura, M stands for Manipur, M stands for Meghalaya, M stands for Mizoram. So Batman, here the spelling will be BATMMMMANS. So triple FANS, because triple three states are there, three cities are there. Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram. A for Assam, N for Nagaland, and S for Sikkim. If these places you travel, then it will be exempted. Road transportation, it can be contract carriage or stage carriage, right? For both, if it is through non-AC, it is exempted. If it is through AC, it will become taxable. Non-AC is exempted, both the places. AC is taxable. Radio taxi, tourism, conducted tour, and charter, all of this is taxable. So if you travel solo, right, you're traveling by yourself without a package or a tour operator, then it is exempted. That too, if it is a non-AC. If it is in an AC bus, it is always taxable. Then you can also travel through cabs. You can travel through metered cabs and things like that. So if you travel through a metered cabs, then it will all be taxable. When and auto rickshaws and e-rickshaws, these are all exempted. But if you travel in these auto rickshaws and metered cabs through your apps, through e-commerce apps, Uber, Ola, then it become taxable. But if you travel without Ola and Uber in a normal auto rickshaw, then it is exempted. Then metro, monorail, and tramway. Sir, in metro we have AC. Why is it exempted? Because they want to encourage the transport through metro. Metro car charges is already high. If they charge GST, it will become further costlier. That's why there is an exemption which has been given here. Okay, metro, monorail, and tramway are exempted. And normal railways, if you're traveling through a non-AC, then it is exempted. Through AC and first class, it will become taxable. Then waterways, public transport जैसे use करते हैं, then it is exempted. Tourism and transportation is taxable. Inland waterways is completely exempted. Then you can transport through goods. Road couriers are taxable. Other individual roads, individual truck owners, carts, bullock carts is exempted. GTA. For GTA, we know under reverse charge, forward charge 12% and 5%, reverse charge always will be 5%. And GTA, you get exempted for certain goods which are called as random goods. Now, what are these random goods? R stands for relief materials, A stands for agriculture produce, N stands for newspapers and magazines, defense goods, organic manure, milks, and other food products is exempted. Okay. Then railways goods is taxable except random goods. Waterways and airways, all of this will be taxable itself. So that is on transportation services. So we understood transportation services. We understood on the residential welfare associations also. Others are all general exemptions. I'll give you one chart on legal services. Legal services will all be exempted. Only one scenario, it will be taxable when all the legal services will be exempted, except here, that is, where is my smart pen? Yes, it is taxable under RCM in this case, when it is a business entity whose gross receipts exceed specified limit, there it is 18% RCM. So lawyer will never charge. But in this scenario, we have to pay under reverse charge basis. But here comes the taxable when a senior advocate provides services to another advocate, then this will become taxable. Or one senior advocate provides services to another senior advocate, taxable. A normal advocate providing to a senior advocate is exempted, but a senior advocate providing services to another senior advocate or to another individual advocate, that will become taxable. Any other exemptions which you have any specific doubt? If nothing, then we'll take up MCQs or take some questions to understand how well have you understood the exemptions, what we have discussed. Okay. Take up the first question and answer this. If I'm a trader dealing with only exempt supplies, is it necessary to register under the GST if my turnover exceeded 20 lakh rupees? Yeah, services by specified organization, Lokesh. Yeah, I'll just get through that. Yeah, these are the specified bodies: coal mines, PFO, ESI, EPF, NPF. These are all exempted. SEBI was exempted and IRDAI was exempted, but that has also become taxable now. So SEBI, collecting SEBI charges from the stock exchanges. IRDAI, Insurance Regulatory Development Authority, will be taxable. Others are all exempted. Another exemption which is relevant is renting services. Residential rent is exempted, but if you're providing residential rent to a registered person, then that registered person has to pay under reverse charge. Clear? Residential rent is generally exempted, but if you're providing your residential rent to a registered person, then that registered person will not get the exemption. He will have to pay the GST under reverse charge because he's using it for his business. Next, accommodation services for students in a hostel. Okay. Hostel services. Hostel services will be exempted where supply of accommodation having value of supply less than or equal to 20,000 rupees per month per person. So hostel charges, if you're collecting normal charges, if you're collecting luxury charges, say for a hostel, you're paying more than 20,000, then you have to pay GST. But if you're paying less than 20,000 to be exempted, also another condition to be met is that accommodation, that hostel should be for a minimum period of 90 days, not like a hotel there where you can stay for 1 month and go. It should be a normal hostel where you have to minimum pay for 90 days period. Then it's a proper hostel, then you will get the exemption. That 20,000 can include everything. It could be with food, without food. It could be for equipment, renting, electricity, and everything. That's still fine. Okay. Insurance services. Yeah. Various government schemes, Meghna, are exempted. There is a list that various insurance schemes are exempted. Let's say Pradhan Mantri, Vikas, and for the agriculturist, those things are exempted. Yeah. Question number one. No registration required if dealing only exempt services. You're right. Yes, taxable as turnover includes exempt supply. Yes, turnover includes exempt supply, Kajal. You're right. But the question here is whether registration is required because I'm dealing only in registration services, only in exempted services. Correct answer is yes. There is no requirement for registration because if I'm dealing only with exempt supplies, then there is a notification which says that you do not have to register if you're dealing only with 100% exempt supplies, right? So you have to see exemption with registration. So most of the topics are interlinked under GST that you get full exemption, then you don't have to take registration. Next is amount which is charged for services provided by selectors to a recognized sports body. Yeah. Is this taxable or no? Sports doing the players are exempted because they will play for recognized sports. So for IPL and all, it will be taxable. But if they're paying for Indian cricket, Ranji Trophy, if they're paying for South versus North, that will all be exempted. But how about the selectors and coaches? Will that be exempted? Services provided to a recognized sports body only by an individual as a player, referee, umpire, coach, or team manager for participation in a sporting event organized by a recognized sports body are exempted. But here it is a selector. He is a selector. So selectors are not exempted. Who are exempted? Player, umpire, referee, coach, or team manager. Only these people are exempted. Even though you are selected for a recognized sports body, still you will be taxable. Clear? So always remember player, referee, umpire, people who are actually there in the sports event. Selectors are not playing the sports, are not involving in the sports. They are deciding who will play. But players, referee, umpire, coach, and team manager are involved. That's why they are exempted. Third question. Taxable exempt. Very much confusion. There is has to be some exemption notification to give the exemption, right? So services provided by way of vehicle parking to general public are not exempted. There is no exemption notification, so it is taxable. Yes. So exempted, few people are saying no, fumigation is not exempted. Fumigation is taxable. That is what is the amendment. I striked it out, right? Earlier it was exempted, now it is taxable. Question number 5. Fumigation of a warehouse was thing. Fumigation of a farm. Generally, they don't do fumigation of a farm because fumigation, if they do in the farm, all it will go in the air. Fumigation is only done for a warehouse. Practically, they don't do fumigation for a farm. Even if it is done, it will be taxable because there is no exemption for that. In 1 minute. RCM on rent is a notification or a special order. RCM on rent is through this notification itself. We have a notification for RCM. In that, they have said that when the rent is given to a taxable person, then the taxable person has to pay that rent, has to pay the GST on that rent. Yeah. Question number 5. What is the answer? Yeah. 4 is done, Lokesh. Now 5. A lot of confusion here in the 5th question. The answer, let me reveal and then explain this to you. Fifth one is the services are being provided by a team manager to a recognized sports body. It will be exempted, but the sporting event should be organized by a recognized sports body. Here, the sporting event is conducted by a multinational company, so it will be taxable. Question number 6. Yeah, this is a very important aspect on exemption, which I had to also cover, where exhibitions, will it be exempted or no? Taxable business exemption. Yes, very correct, Miss Kushi. Others, do you think exhibition organized will be taxable? It is exempted. Why, Parveen? Why is it exempted? Exempted, Ms. Gulika is saying, as Make in India is a government initiative in India, so it is exempted. Okay. Exempted because गवर्नमेंट रिलेटेड नहीं, मेक इन इंडिया है, एवरीथिंग इज फाइन, बट गवर्नमेंट ने एग्जेम्पशन में दिया है क्या? इसको एग्जेम्पशन में दिया नहीं है, इवन इफ इट इज मेक इन इंडिया। बस मेक इन इंडिया के नाम से आप एग्जेम्पशन नहीं ले सकते हो। Services provided by an organizer to any person in respect of business exhibition are exempt only if such exhibition is held outside India. अगर वो बिजनेस एग्जीबिशन आउटसाइड इंडिया आप होल्ड करते हो तब एग्जेम्प्ट होता है। विद इन इंडिया रखते हो तो फिर एग्जेम्प्ट नहीं होगा, टैक्सेबल हो जाएगा। However, since in the given case the exhibition is being organized in India, the services of organization by Kian Enterprises जो organizer है will not be exempted, it will be taxable. तो कुछ भी ऑर्गेनाइजर अगर आउटसाइड इंडिया एग्जीबिशन रखता है, मेक इन इंडिया हो या नॉट मेक इन इंडिया, मेक इन इंडिया का वर्डिंग्स कहीं पर भी एग्जेम्पशन में लिखा नहीं है, तो वो मेक इन इंडिया के नाम से आप एग्जेम्पशन मत लीजिए। इफ द एग्जीबिशन इज हेल्ड आउटसाइड इंडिया, देन ओनली इट इज टैक्सेबल, देन ओनली इट इज एग्जेम्प्टेड। विद इन इंडिया इट इज टैक्सेबल, क्योंकि आउटसाइड इंडिया का प्रमोशन करने के लिए स्पेसिफिकली एग्जेम्पशन उसके लिए मिलता है। ST Limited, question number 7, has given on hire 5 trucks to T2 Transporters of Delhi, who is a goods transport agency for transporting goods in Central and West Delhi. The hiring charges for the trucks are 7,500 per day. Examine whether GST is payable or no. Question ठीक से पढ़िए। Exhibition related to charitable organization. Hmm, if they are doing something for a charitable activity, Meghna, then it will be exempted. Otherwise, it will become taxable. GTA taxable. Why GTA taxable, Mr. Ram? What is the nature of service here? First, understand what is the nature of service. Before getting into exempted or taxable, tell me what is the nature of service here. Kamsha. The nature of service here is not on the GTA. The nature of service is the ST Limited, who is giving on hire 5 trucks to T2 transporters. They are giving on hire the trucks for GTA. So is that exempted or taxable? It is exempted because in case of hiring of given by ST to T2 transporters is exempted because you can give a truck to on hire to a GTA. Then the services by way of giving on hire to a GTA is a means of transportation that is exempted. So GTA will always be under reverse charge or forward charge. That is a different scenario. But the renting of trucks by anybody to a GTA is also exempted. Okay. So before getting into next topic, we'll take a break of 10 minutes. And after our break, we will discuss on value of supply. So let's discuss on value of supply. Okay. So we have discussed on the exemptions, and with the with the questions, we could clarify various other exemptions and understand them with examples. Now, value of supply, what we'll do is we'll take a different approach. We will first go through the MCQs and then come to the topic, so that with the MCQs, we will be in a better position to understand this. And if there's any provisions, then we will come back to that perspective. Okay. Ms. Gomati is a trader who supplied watches to Mr. Deepak for a price of rupees 1000 each. Okay. The wholesale price of the watch is rupees 1500. Retail price of the watch, which is sold by Ms. Gomati in the ordinary course of business, is rupees 2000. Ms. Gomati and Mr. Deepak are unrelated person. What is the value of the supply? Okay. So when we go through the MCQs itself, I will teach the concepts of valuation so that it becomes very easier. Then we'll go to the main slide on the value so that we will understand the topic in a holistic manner. Okay. Most of you have understood this topic and you're giving a correct answer, except one student who's saying it is 2000. The value of supply, right? Let's take me to the slide on valuation. The value will be, this is the important thing, where the transaction it is between two persons who are not related to each other, and price is the sole consideration. Then value of the supply for the purpose of valuation is transaction value. That is the price actually paid or payable. Okay. When the transaction is between two people who are not related and price is the sole consideration, then what will be the value of supply will be the transaction value. What is the transaction value meaning? Definition of transaction value is the price which is actually paid or payable. Now, it doesn't say that it should be the general value or the book value. It just says that what is the transaction value? Even if the wholesale price is higher, even in the ordinary course, I may be selling 2000 at higher price, but what is the value at which I am entering into a transaction? That is the value for this purpose. Sir, if it was related person, will the answer change? Yes. In this case, it is a unrelated person. They have clearly specified they are unrelated and they are entering into a transaction at rupees 1000 rupees. So the answer will be 1000, which is the transaction value. Okay. The answer is 1000 rupees here. If it was related, then what will happen? We will go to the value plus two adjustments that is given under valuation rules. But that adjustments are not there in your syllabus, Ram. That if it is related, then you have to go to the valuation rules and determine what is the open market value for that product and then decide the transaction value. Okay. So we don't have to get into that. There are few offers going on Mintra on the occasion of Raksha Bandhan. One of the offers is buy more, save more. When the customer will get 50% if you purchase more than 70,000. This we generally see. More you buy, you get the more discount. So what kind of discount is this? Yeah. Is it volume discount? No, because volume will be how much volume you buy. On that, I will give you fixed percentage. That is volume discount. Periodic discounts is at various periods I'll give you. So it's not a periodic discount. Is it secondary discount? No, because secondary discount is one which is not decided upfront. So it's not a secondary discount also. Here it is decided upfront, so it's not a secondary discount. It's a staggered discount because as and when at various stages you buy it, so the discounts are getting staggered. So this is an example of a staggered discount. Clear? Volume discount is whatever volume you purchase, on that volume I'll give you some fixed percentage. So that's a volume discount. So here it is not a volume discount, it's a staggered discount. Secondary discount is a discount which is given at a later point of time and it is not discussed initially. At the time of supply, you're not discussing it, but you're giving it at the end based on the performance or some criteria. That is called as a secondary discount. Prabhas supplied goods to Anushka for a consideration of 2 lakh rupees, right? Now, in this question, you have to answer what is the value of supply. I have a doubt here, sir. When we prepare invoice, we don't usually add interest because it is uncertain. So why this concept is there? Correct. So if you don't add it in the invoice and say in the invoice you made a mistake, invoice is issued. So if there's any correction, what do you do? I am supplying goods to you for 5,000 rupees. In the invoice, I've mentioned 4,000 rupees. So will 4,000 only become the value, Miss Dia? We amend. So will you make changes in the invoice? You can't make changes in the invoice, Ms. Dia, because it is already given to the customer. And once you raise an invoice, you're not supposed to make any corrections in the invoice. Then the validity or authenticity of the invoice will be lost. You can't make an amendment in the invoice. You can make amendment in the returns. Invoice is different, returns is different. So if the invoice is wrong, what do you do? Amendment in GST filing. Yeah, Ram, but your invoice is not changed. Your invoice is 4,000 rupees. My value of supply is 5,000 rupees. What do you do then? Issue a credit note if you have to reduce the value. But in my case, I have to increase the value. So I will give a debit note. Right, Kushi. So I will give a debit note. I've given you invoice for 4,000 rupees, but it should be 5,000 rupees. I agree with the mistake. I've told my customer also that I should have raised for 5,000 rupees. He's saying, okay, he's also fine. So I have to raise an invoice for differential 1,000 rupees. That 1,000 I give through a debit note. So any upward revision, I will give a debit note. If there's a downward revision, I will give a credit note, right? So similarly, if there is a charge of, if the valuation rule says that you have to charge interest, then the question is, what is the value? The mechanism of how do you collect that extra interest is again through a debit note. Okay, so that is possible because any changes in the invoice is not possible. But if there's any change in the value, you can give a debit note or a credit note. Right? The value is that you have made a supply and you're giving a credit period of 1 month and you're charging interest. This interest is a thing which has to be included in the value of supply. So the my value of supply for this supply is 2 lakh and that interest which is 1%. So my value of supply is 2 lakh 2000. I will raise an invoice for 2 lakhs and raise a debit note for this 2000 rupees. Okay. Now let's go back to the previous question again. We know that it is 2 lakh 2000 rupees. Now tell me, we have discussed on the time of supply, correct? Now you tell me what is the time of supply for this 2 lakh and what is the time of supply for this 2000 rupees. We know 2 lakhs will be through invoice and 2000 will be through a debit note. Now say this is month 1, right? And interest is charged after expiry of 1 month credit period. So say this is in month 2. And you have raised a debit note, but is it necessary that you receive it in the same month? You may receive it later on. So month 1, you raise the invoice, received in month 2, 2000 rupees raised in month 2, but it is received in month 3. So in this case, you tell me what is the time of supply for 2000 rupees and what is the time of supply, what is time of supply for 2 lakh rupees and what is the time of supply for 2000 rupees. Time of supply for 2 lakh is month 2 and time of supply for 2 lakhs is month 2 and time of supply of 2000 is month 3. Time of supply for goods when goods were made available. Time of supply of interest is date of payment received. Month 2 for 2 lakhs, 2000 interest on month 3. Oh my God. Okay. Very, very confusing, conflicting answers. So time of supply for goods is when the goods are moved or issue of invoice, whichever is earlier. So in this case, I have raised the invoice in month 1. Whether I get the payment or don't get the payment doesn't matter because you have to raise an invoice and that is the time of supply. So we know for services, is it receipt of payment or issue of invoice, whichever is earlier. But in case of goods, it is just issue of invoice. You have issued an invoice in month 1. So time of supply is month 1 itself for 2 lakh rupees. But the time of supply for interest, IPL, interest, penalty, and late fees is not when you raise the debit note. It is when you receive the amount of interest. So for 2000 rupees, you have raised in month 2, but you're receiving it in month 3. So the time of supply is month 3 for the interest because for interest, that exemption, that exception is there. But for invoice, it is in the date of invoice itself. Clear? Don't get confused that, okay, invoice is issued and received thing, because most of you have given answer that month two is the time of supply for this 2 lakh rupees. No. Once you raise the invoice, invoice is the time of supply. Discount is provided after supply. She issued an invoice provide discount of 10,000 rupees. Discount is provided at the time of supply itself. It is not provided after supply. It is provided during the supply itself. But the provision for discount says that you can reduce the discount from the value of supply if you are mentioning in the invoice. If you mention in the invoice, then you can reduce the discount value. So from the 1 lakh rupees, I can give a discount of 10,000 rupees. If I mention in the invoice, then it will be allowed. Then the value of supply will be 90,000. But in this case, I have not mentioned in the invoice. So then the value of supply will be 1 lakh rupees itself. Right. Very many people have given the correct answer that yes, the value of supply will be 1 lakh since discount is not reduced in the invoice. Sir, if not mentioned but given credit note, should we reduce? Yes. If it is agreed and it is given through a credit note, then we should reduce. Since in the question they have not mentioned anything about the credit note, so we'll assume it is not issued. B. Since the subsidy, I've given the explanation. If I wouldn't have given the explanation, then it would have been a little tough. Here, the subsidy, in case of value of supply, if any subsidy is given by the central government and state government, then it will not be included. But in this case, the subsidy is given by whom? Selling price is 300. ABS trust, it's not a government, right? It is a NGO. If the NGO gives some subsidy saying that 150 rupees they will bear, it will not be considered. So answer is B. Subsidy given by any person other than central government shall be added to the value of supply. Therefore, the value of supply is 300 rupees. If the subsidy is given by government, then I will reduce it. If donation given to whom? Here it is a supply by the bag supplier. So for him, he will not receive any donation. Alumni to college. Let me take this. Alumni to college. If the alumni is giving some donation to the college, okay. So is it a educational service? No. College can make only educational services if they're getting any donation, and it is not a 12 double A or 12 double AB entity. Then it will be taxable. Good question, Ram. So if any alumni are giving some donation to the college, it will be taxable. Value of supply shall not include any discount which is given before the time of supply if such discount has been duly recorded. So this is the exact provision on discount. This question covers it. That discount which is given before or at the time of supply can be reduced if it is recorded in the invoice, but if it is given after, if discount has been duly at the time of supply or before the time of supply, whichever it is, if it is recorded in the invoice. So answer is C, both A and B. So before or at the time of supply, then it should be mentioned in the invoice as a deduction, then it is allowed. Which means value of supply shall not include the discount. You will remove the discount. Clear? People have told D. D is not the answer because it is C itself. Yes, Meghna, that I'll show you the slide for the discount, right? Discount says that discounts which are given at the time of supply or before the supply, if it is shown in the invoice, then discounts are not included in the value of supply, right? If you give a discount before the supply or at the time of supply, and if you're showing in the invoice, then such discount are not included in the value of supply. But if you do not show in the invoice, then discounts are included in the value of supply, which means 10,000 rupees worth of goods, 100 rupees is the discount. If I show in the invoice, right? Criteria is showing in the invoice 1000 minus 100, then discount is not included in the value of supply, which means 1000 may say 100 rupees kam kar dunga. But if I do not show in the invoice, discounts are not included in the value of supply, then the value of supply will be 1000 rupees. Means we deduct, correct. If it is discounts not in, because that's the legal term, discounts not included in the value of supply means we deduct. Here we will deduct, here we will not deduct. Clear, Meghna and Dia? Yes, sir. Question number 7. Okay, this is a little technical question saying that what is the section? Section is not relevant. I will just give you answer. supplies made for non-price consideration, supplies made for part price consideration, partly non-price consideration, supplies made to related persons. In this case, we will go to the valuation rules. Okay, we'll go to the valuation rules when all of this is satisfied. That is, your price is not the sole consideration, and when you're saying partly consideration and partly non-cash consideration, that is when price is not the sole consideration, we'll go to the valuation rules. Okay, this is persons. Value of supply includes subsidy provided by the central government, subsidies directly linked, blanket subsidies are both A and C. Yes, subsidies directly linked to the price. Value of supply includes subsidies, which is directly included to the price because subsidies provided by the central government are not included and blanket subsidies are also not included. So only price directly linked to the price is to be included. Value of supply is the transaction value when a transaction of supply is made between unrelated persons and price is the sole consideration. If these two conditions are satisfied, then transaction value is permitted. So answer is C. Okay. So now we are clear with the concepts, right? Now let me take you through the important aspect of valuation. That is, this slide will give you a complete picture. Section 15 says that transaction value has to be considered where not related parties, two conditions, there are unrelated parties, and price is the sole consideration, which means only price what you're paying should be the sole consideration. If the price is not the sole consideration, then you cannot go with the transaction value because some other alteration has to be done. That's the reason you will not go with the sale price or the transaction value. You have to go with additions. So you have to get into the valuation rule. The transaction value will not be the criteria. That is first part. But if you're doing with a unrelated party and just price is the consideration, then you'll go with the transaction value. Now, after going into the transaction value, you have satisfied these two conditions. Compulsory inclusions has to be done. What we will include duties and taxes other than GST, which is say any kind of municipality tax or sale tax, which is not a tax under the GST law. Other than GST, if any other tax is charged, that we have to add to the value. Suppose I'm charging rent of 10,000 rupees. I'm collecting municipal tax of 1,000 rupees. So on 11,000, I have to charge the GST. Next is payment incurred by the recipient for which supplier has to pay. Supplier has to pay something which the recipient has paid. That also has to be included. Any incidental expenses charged by the supplier at the time of supply before delivery. Before delivery of the goods, if I'm doing any testing charges, any kind of a packing charges for which I'm collecting from the customer, that also has to be added to the transaction value. Then interest, late fees, and penalty for delayed consideration has to be added. And the time of supply for this will be on actual receipt, but it will be included in the taxable value. Then any price linked subsidies, we have seen that in the MCQ, other than the subsidies which is given by the government has to be included. These are the five things which I have to add. Then three things which I will discuss is discount I will reduce. Any discount given before or at the time of supply. If it is included in the invoice, then it is deductible. And any discount which is given after supply, I will deduct it if it is agreed before the time of supply, and it is deductible if it is linked to the invoice, and ITC should be reversed by the recipient. That's another condition, that I will reduce from my sale price provided the recipient reverses the input tax credit. And if discount is not agreed, any discount which is given after supply but it is not agreed at the time of supply, then it is not deductible. What is blanket subsidy? A subsidy which is given for a whole thing, for the whole factory, or just given as such without any linking to the price of the sale value of the product. That is called blanket subsidy. If it is linked to the price of the product, then that is called as a product linked subsidy. Apart from that, any other subsidy is called as a blanket subsidy. Clear? Any more doubts on this? One other aspect is this, we have seen that these things we will do the adjustments. Now TCS, any collection made, that is also other than GST, but you will still not include it because they've clarified that TCS is not a tax. It's just a interim levy not having the character of a tax. So you do not have to include the TCS, what is collected under the Income Tax Act. GST will be at the rate of principal supply. Yes. On the interest, it's a composite supply. So what is the GST rate on the principal supply? That will apply on all the interest and other charges. Now, two more MCQs. Not this. Huh. Question number 13. Correct. Answer is B. In provisions of the income tax, it's not includable as it is an interim levy not having the character of tax. So you will not include it in the value of supply. Yeah, this is a little tricky question, but if you know on these terms what is ex-factory basis, then you will answer it very easily. You would have learned this definition under Contract Act. What is ex-factory? What is on-site? Ex-factory basis means that my price to you, what we agree is at my factory gate. That is called as ex-factory basis. So any additional charges will be borne extra by the receiver. That is the meaning of ex-factory basis. So in which of the following circumstances, outward freight and transit insurance will not be included in the value of supply? When the supplier agrees to deliver the goods at the buyer's premises, then we will include it. And when the contract is on ex-factory basis, as I discussed, that ex-factory basis means till my factory gate and any additional charges is your cost. So in this scenario, where the contract is for supply on an ex-factory basis, Where the buyer pays for the freight and insurance, then I will not include in my value because the buyer is paying it on his own. It is not included in my value of supply. It is not part of my supply, right? If it would have become in first phase, then I will include it. The question is when it will not be included. So in second scenario, it will not be included. Clear here? Yeah, hopefully, Ram, by common sense logic, in so much explanation, what I give here in our final exams, you may not get it, but you have to, yes, apply the common sense logic definitely. Last question for the day. Kushi, very good first answer. Mr. Ram, Mr. Gul, Miss Gulika, correct answer. Yes. Krishna Goyal, Kajal Yadav, Tia Jain, Lokesh. Lokesh have given wrong answer. Others have given the correct answer. Yes, it is A and B. Which of the following conditions has to be satisfied? Discount should be in terms of agreement that existed at the time of supply and can be worked out invoice wise. And proportionate ITC is reversed by the recipient. If these two conditions are satisfied, then such discount will come as a deduction. Okay. Thank you very much for participating actively. We'll see you in the next LVRC then. Yes, sir.